Hello and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. Today is a red letter day for the Indian Air Force. The IAF has taken delivery of its first Rafale aircraft in France. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, as you can see there in Mérignac in Bordeaux in France, where the first Rafale jet is now in India's property. It's Indian now. The Shastra Puja of the aircraft taking place now. This is something which the Defence Minister said that he would do. The Shastra Puja on Dussehra, which is today, on Air Force Day, which is today. It's all very auspicious, and the Indian Air Force would certainly hope that the Rafale aircraft does yeoman service for the force, which has been wanting a state-of-the-art fighter jet. 36 Rafale aircraft have been procured for more than 58,000 crore rupees. These will be delivered in a period of 2 years. The Air Force certainly would want any controversy associated with the type to go away. Remember, the Supreme Court continues to hear one of the cases as far as Rafale is concerned, but whether or not that case actually what happens in that case, whether that potentially impacts any further future acquisitions, we do not know at this juncture. But none of this ever had anything to do with the aircraft itself and the capability it brought in. And for the Indian Air Force, this was always the central argument that, look, we need an aircraft, we need it bad, our squadron strength is depleting. Older variants such as the MiG-21, MiG-23, MiG-27, they are being decommissioned, and therefore with squadron strength going down, with the Tejas aircraft not being manufactured at the pace at which India would certainly like, India needs to acquire and import these aircraft as well. So these images from France recorded earlier on in the day. The Defence Minister met the French President in Paris. He travelled to Bordeaux. Then this is the Mérignac facility in Bordeaux of Dassault, and that is RB001. That's the first Rafale aircraft for India. The tail number is RB001. RB stands for Rakesh Bhadoria. That is the Air Force Chief. He was instrumental in getting this deal done. We're going to be talking about what this aircraft means for the Indian Air Force. Joining us now, three fantastic flyers. Two of them led the Indian Air Force. Air Chief Marshal S. Krishnaswamy with us, Air Chief Marshal Anil Yashwant Tipnis with us, and Air Commodore Harpreet Basra with me in the studio. Both of them, all three of them, have had extensive experience with French aircraft, the Mirage 2000 in the past. Jack Basra was in fact somebody who was associated with the flight evaluation trials process of the Rafale aircraft. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us. Air Chief Marshal Krishnaswamy, let me come to you first, sir. In terms of capability, in simple terms, what does the Rafale give the Indian Air Force?
The capability wise, I think is a lot said. It carries a very large weapon load, about 9 tons plus. It goes very long distances, but the impressive part is it's a fully integrated system where the radar, the other sensors, the mission computer, the pilot in the loop, they're all so well integrated and to achieve a mission. And the other part of that is the first aircraft, in my understanding, totally a swing. It has a swing role. That is, while in air, it can change over from, say, strike to air defense or air superiority. It doesn't have to come back to reset the computer or the weapons and so on and so forth. And it has very long endurance. It's a matter of course, it could be very, it could be quite a strain on the pilots. But then, other than that, I think it is really value for money in that sense.
All right, Air Chief Marshal Tipnis, it's been an incredible wait for the Indian Air Force. It's been a wait of 25 odd years since there was that first proposal that we needed more Mirage 2000s. That never happened. Mirage 2000 stopped being manufactured. There was the MRCA process, became the MMRCA process. That got scrapped. This entire deal took place. Huge controversy in the Supreme Court. Finally today, sir, we've got one aircraft. So for the Air Force, this entire process, sir, would you like to reflect on that, sir? We've all gotten old, sir, myself included. You've known me as a young cub reporter covering the Air Force. We've been talking about this plane for how many years, sir? 25 odd years.
Well, I flew it 20 years ago, so you can imagine how much time has gone under the bridge, how much water has flown. Yes, Air Chief Marshal Krishnaswamy very quickly gave you a resume of the capabilities of the Rafale. But what we are talking about is we are talking about the future. The first aircraft is yet to be on Indian soil. It's going to take something like 6 months more, 8 months more. And we have to understand the situation, the geopolitical situation as it exists today. And after the abrogation of these two articles, the situation on our Western Front is very, very delicate. And I would talk in terms of that if you are trying to wait for this normal process of deliveries, then I don't think the geopolitical situation and the state of the Air Force are quite in consonance. We need to do some real magic. And in fact, one of the things that I thought was that, when the Raksha Mantri has met the President of France, perhaps this is the issue that we are talking about, that there are some accelerated deliveries, that you have to talk in terms of, as we did even in the past, where, before, as per the contracted deliveries, I know there is a lot of political controversy on that, but notwithstanding that, I think unless we as a nation sit together and understand, the enormity of the challenges that are facing us. And we can't talk in the air. We can't say, no, wait for 5 years, and then we will have our little conflict. We are now facing an urgent requirement.
Yep.
How are we to meet that?
Yep.
We are already down to less than 3/4 of our authorized rate.
Yes.
Now, with 3/4 of authorized rate, 20 years ago, after the Kargil war, my projection as the chief at that time was between 55 to 60 fighter squadrons. And instead of the figure going upwards, the figure has dwindled down and is going to dwindle further.
Right.
We have aircraft which are well past their prime time. And unless we do something which is extraordinary, I will only say this, that I am extraordinarily happy that the partner that we have at this time is France. Our experience with the Mirage 2000 extraordinarily good, because it's not only the aircraft and the weaponry that you have on that, but it's your maintenance capabilities.
Yep.
What is the rate of sorties that you can produce on that?
Right.
How much can you
in
put
fact,
on the line?
Chief, I just wanted to go across
equipment.
Sure, I wanted to speak to Air Commodore Basra about that as well. Air Commodore, we've spoken roughly about the weapons and the system maintenance, because we don't talk about that enough. The ability to get enough sorties in the air when you want. Traditionally, this has been an area where the Air Force has had problems. We've always had to work at it. How is there a sense that this aircraft will be available much more than the other aircraft in the past?
Vishnu, first of all, if you see the Mirage 2000, the serviceability and the availability of the Mirage 2000 has been one of the highest over the years. In fact, Air Chief Marshal Tipnis was the team leader during the Mirage induction, and both the gentlemen sitting there, the two air chiefs that we have always looked up to, they were instrumental in setting up the Gwalior base. And what the French insist on is that we have to have basic maintenance available with us in terms of maintaining that aeroplane, and there is always a target serviceability that is always required to be made available. That was done on Mirage to a large extent for many, many years. For almost 20 odd years, we were maintaining very high serviceability. Now, in this particular deal, coming to the Rafale, what we have done, firstly, Rafale is a maintenance dream for any maintenance expert. It's a dream come true. Why? Because everything is readily available and you can change online. You don't require very big labs. The aircraft has computers, self-testing computers, which tell you exactly which part needs to be replaced and which particular LRU or which particular card in the LRU needs to be replaced. And it's all at eye level. You don't have to get into heavy cranes and lifting and things like that. So that improves the maintainability. Also within this contract, I'm sure you all must have read, that we have got into something called as the performance-based logistics. Yeah. That means the vendor is duty
legally
bound,
yeah, contractually bound,
to maintain a certain amount of figure online.
Or they pay for it.
Yeah, or they pay for it.
Yeah.
For that, he has to set up the maintenance lines, and over a period of years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, when we decide we can further extend this contract, or if our maintenance support fetches up, we can probably get into. So therefore, as far as the maintenance Rafale was also designed to fly on the ships. See, ships are very restricted in terms of space. You can't have huge maintenance setups like you have on an airfield, if any of the you have visited so many airfields. So towards that, it has been set up so that it is maintenance friendly. We do not require those extensive labs. We do not require the kind of second line servicing. And we learned it, just to give you an example, in the old Russian aircraft, an engine change used to take a few days, and it required air testing. The Mirage, you can do it in between say 6 to 8 hours. On the Rafale, you can do it within 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of maintenance.
That's also how technology changes. Air Chief Marshal Krishna Swamy, in the air battle that took place on the 27th of February this year, the Indian Air Force found itself in a position where we were somewhat outranged or outpositioned, I would say, by the Pakistan Air Force and the AMRAAM missile that they came equipped with, their F-16s. This comes with a missile called the Meteor. How is that a game changer?
Well, I think this is like the Wild West now. Whosoever draws first, shoots first, is the winner, in putting it in a very simplistic form. Now, AMRAAM has a very, very long range, over 100 kilometers, and possibly our weapons don't have that kind of range. So they were launching the AMRAAM from very far distance, but we had enough of what you call capability to know when it is being released or being launched, and we can take we could take appropriate defensive action or go on the offensive. Therefore, the tactics has got to match the so-called weapons that you have. So we have experts like Commodore Basra in the field who can evolve the so-called the tactics and methods of doing it. After all, we are in a race. We are on a ladder. So between offensive system, defensive system, and longer ranges, more capable missiles, and so on. This battle will go on forever. But one thing I want to add on the Rafale that you just now covered, you must know that we have paid substantial amount for this assured availability of 75–80% serviceability. We don't have such contract with either in Mirage 2000 or Su-30. So that's a lot of money that's gone there towards that. And we could have very well done that with the other variants also. So there is some other serviceability aspect, typically, especially in Mirage 2000, has a lot to do with the kind of a contract that you have. And Rafale, we paid a lot on this.
Yeah, and Air Chief Marshal Tipnis, would you like to add to that? We've paid for a lot of things. It's an expensive deal, and we won't get into the controversy because we're trying to look at capability here. But we've paid for a lot of things other than the aircraft. We've paid for logistics, as Air Chief Marshal Krishna Swamy was saying. We've paid for training. We've paid for India-specific upgrades, upwards of 1.4 billion euros. All of these things, we paid for integration of a lot of Israeli equipment on board this aircraft. This aircraft is French, obviously, but in a sense it's exactly the way the Indian Air Force wants it, which is in some important ways different from the way the French want it. The customization of this aircraft is really what makes it what it is, right?
Absolutely, but that's not our first experience. We did the same thing with the Sukhoi. The Sukhoi, as the Russians had made it, and the Sukhoi Mark 1 or India was entirely different because we had a whole lot of systems which had been brought in from other sources. Definitely, we are talking about the contractual basis. One of the things that we as Indians, we are always talking as buyer and seller, but we have to talk in terms of, given the present circumstance, there has to be a strategic partnership. And I believe that France, Israel are two countries which have proved to be and have the potential to be enormously capable of us giving us the help at the time that we want. Israel showed it during Kargil, and France, during a Mirage contract, the government of France is so closely integrated. Now, if something like that happened in India, there'll be a whole lot of opposition, outcries. But in France, they always give enormous importance to any export contracts that they have. And although the contract may be, of course, in this case, I think it's with the government of India, with the government of France, but even if there is a contract with the companies, the French government integrates very, very closely. And we found that at many times when there were requirements for the Indian Air Force and the manufacturers were not able to do it in time, the French government would actually ask the French Air Force to divert their equipment to us. The French, they have an enormous aeronautical industry, and that industry we have to work in conjunction. We can't talk in these terms of buyer and seller anymore. We have to talk in terms of strategic partnerships. The world is changing so fast, and we talk in terms of the terrific technology that is coming on our weapon platforms. But what we are not talking in terms of the agility that is required of the mind, the decision making, and new methodologies for collaborating with other countries. And that is the need of the time today, that we have to ensure that. And remember this, there is very little time, that is so critical. We are talking in terms of the future, always talking in terms of the future. We have to talk of the present, here and now. And how are we going to meet the challenges that are before us? These are all very good. They are the theatrics of, you're showing your aircraft, you have your pujas, but ultimately you have to make sure you deliver. And how are we going to do this?
Right.
The situation is extraordinarily delicate, and I am talking in terms of that we have to do some extraordinary measures to make sure we get the aircraft faster than what has been contracted and far in greater numbers than what we got.
All right, that's an important point, because a lot of people believe, as the Air Chief was mentioning,
for 2 squadrons.
That 36 aircraft not enough, but it's all very expensive. It boils down to that. Air Chief Marshal Tipnis, Air Chief Marshal Krishnaswamy, thank you both, sirs, very much for speaking to us. Air Commodore Basra, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. But we've been talking about the Rafale. There was some interesting messaging which the Indian Air Force actually sent out today on the occasion of Air Force Day. I was there at the Hindon Air Force Base. Let's take a look. The jet on the extreme side of this formation is a Su-30 fighter that Pakistan insists that it shot down a day after India's attack on Balakot. Today, the IAF chose to call out Pakistan's bluff, flying not just the same fighter, call sign Avenger 1, but also having Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, the man India believes shot down a Pak F-16, lead a formation of MiG-21 Bisons. One of the highlights of Air Force Day this year was the Apache attack helicopter showcased here for the first time. But as much as the Apache helicopter was a highlight, so too were some of the aerial displays. Wing Commander Abhinandan flying a sortie over here, in addition to the Balakot attackers also flying. The Apache which you see here wasn't the only new aircraft on display. This transport, the Chinook, inducted just a few months back, was also showcased at the IAF Day for the first time. The larger message, though, was strategic. The new Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Rakesh Bhadoria, making it clear that the Indian Air Force would respond when needed to the threat of terror.
It is extremely important that we are always vigilant and alert to the existing sub-conventional threat. In the year gone by, the Indian Air Force has demonstrated its resolve and capability in punishing the perpetrators of terrorism, and we need to be ever prepared to meet any contingency that challenges the defense of our country.
For the IAF, the future for now rests in the Rafale acquisition, the first jet being handed over to India in a ceremony in France. With Ashok Mahale, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
हमारा फोकस वायुसेना को समृद्ध करने और उसकी क्षमता को बढ़ाने पर है। हमें विश्वास है कि फ्रांस द्वारा सभी 36 रफाल एयरक्राफ्ट और संबंधित इक्विपमेंट्स व वेपन सिस्टम्स की डिलीवरी टाइमलाइंस को पूरा किया जाएगा। मैं फ्रांस के सहयोग का शुक्रगुजार हूं, जो न सिर्फ रक्षा अपितु अन्य मामलों में भी भारत के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। आज का दिन इंडो फ्रेंच स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप में एक नया माइलस्टोन है और वास्तव में बाइलेटरल डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन में नई ऊंचाइयों को छूता है। रफाल मीडियम मल्टी रोल कॉम्बैट एयरक्राफ्ट हमको और मजबूती प्रदान करेगा। मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि फरवरी 2021 तक हमको 18 रफेल्स जो है मिल जाएंगे और अप्रैल मई 2022 तक हमको पूरी की पूरी 36 ये रफेल्स ये मिल जाएंगी। और मैं समझता हूं कि रफेल के कारण निश्चित रूप से हमारे एयरफोर्स की एक कॉम्बैट कैपेबिलिटी में इजाफा हुआ है, ये बहुत बड़ी वृद्धि हुई है। लेकिन यदि हम अपनी कॉम्बैट कैपेबिलिटी को बढ़ा रहे हैं तो किसी के ऊपर आक्रमण करने के लिए नहीं बढ़ा रहे हैं, बल्कि ये हम बढ़ा रहे हैं तो अपने सेल्फ डिफेंस के लिए हम बढ़ा रहे हैं। और बहुत ही कंफर्टेबल फ्लाइट थी और बहुत ही स्मूथ थी, सुपरसोनिक की स्पीड से भी इन्होंने मुझे फ्लाई कराया है।